Now, before I go, I want to introduce our last final comic. This may be like he's like a 3-time or 4-time offender. He's a big fan of the big friend of the show. We all love him, and he's back again. Keep it going for my really good friend Aditya Mayya.
Hey. Childhood, I guess, is what we're talking about. And I think all of our childhood is kind of defined by our parents and their mistakes. And I think it's an excuse we all have, which is, my parents were crazy, because it's an excuse that everybody accepts. Like, no one will ever call you out for behavior if you use it. Like, you just shot me in the knees. Yeah, but my parents were mean. Oh, it's fine. Go ahead. Keep shooting at me. And I do the same thing, where it's like, I blame them for everything. But it's a bit harder because they're both salespeople, so their whole life is about being like professionally relatable. So like if you ever get into a conversation with them, it's like it's never going to go too far from Forrest Gump and the Eagles. Nothing that's going to make like white America gulp too hard. But then every so often they'll do something and I'm like, oh yeah, of course my life is a bus fire. It's because of you. It's fine. For example, years ago when I was 15 in the summer, my dad booked a cabin by the lake for us to all go to. And it was me, my mom, and my dad and my uncle. We all drove up there. It looked great on the outside. And then we walked inside and we were like, oh, several teenagers have been murdered here. Like there was, just dolls with several limbs missing in each room. And like the walls were like this off-white color where it looked like a paper towel that had bacon drained on it. And so that was really unsettling, but we unpacked and then just got to it. And it was a fun time. We were swimming and like playing cards and shooting, I don't know, whatever families do. It was like a Norman Rockwell painting, except if he had a color other than white. And at one point we're playing cards. My dad is next to me. It's a real nice moment. And then my dad's phone rings and he says, oh, it's from the guy that I rented the place from. And he picks it up, and I'm right next to him, so I can hear what the guy is saying. And he goes, my ex just got out of the hospital. My restraining order ends on her today. She's been drinking. Leave. And then he hangs up. My dad looks at us and says, I think we might need to go. I'm not sure. And I'm thinking, like, I don't know. I mean, one drunk woman, like, one, we can call the cops. And even if not, like, I went to kindergarten. I can handle a middle-aged drunk woman. I passed that. But whatever. So we keep playing cards. And then a few minutes later, my dad's phone rings again. And it's the guy. And he goes, have you left yet? And my dad goes, no, we might just call the cops. I mean, she's trespassing. It's like, it's not a big deal. And he goes, well, actually, the deed is in her name. So you're the ones that are trespassing. And then he hangs up again. And then my dad looks at us and says, yeah, we need to go. So immediately everyone starts like piling stuff into the car and throwing blankets away. I'm like chucking empty water bottles into the sea like they're grenades. It's like that scene from Parasite where they're cleaning everything up, except instead of a metaphor about classism, it's about the intricacies of property law. And at one point I remember asking my dad, I'm like, you should contact Airbnb and tell him that this dude is like not okay. And he's like, oh no, I didn't do this through Airbnb. And I'm like, oh, was it like Craigslist or like you saw a listing? And he was like, no, I just got it. And I'm like, what do you mean you got it? And he was like, just like I know him from like, around. It was like every word he said made me less like sure about what exactly we were doing. So I was just completely confused. But at this point, we're fully packed into the car. We're about to get off. And then the question comes as to who has to drive. My parents have been drinking since the morning. My uncle has been drinking since 2007. And so the burden of driving falls onto me, who is a very shaggy-haired 15-year-old boy who just got his license. I've never even driven like outside of a parking lot, let alone the freeway. So I get into the car, very nervous, start it up. It's like, it's not a good sign because both also my dad and my uncle are yelling at me, just instructions with a level of confidence that you can only have if you're a man in your 40s. And I start up the car and it starts going and it's jittery and there's a lot of fits and starts and just really sweaty and awkward. It was a lot like the first hand job I ever got, except in this instance, I wasn't the only one scared for my life. And we're going and we're going. And then finally we get into a nice cruise mode. And my mom from behind me says, you know why this didn't happen? Because we didn't pray when we were coming over here on the highway. And I don't know who said that that was a thing you needed to do, because I'm not really religious, but I've read enough to know that I don't think either Jesus or Muhammad ever said, if you're ever going to your family summer house, make sure you pray to one of us, because the guy who owns the house's insane jilted ex-lover might drink and then show up and really ruin the vibe. But she said so. So then I had to pull over, and then we started praying, and then we stopped, and then we kept going. And I just remember thinking, this was not at all how I thought this summer was going to go. And then I saw my dad get the phone, and I said, "Who are you calling?" And he said, "I'm going to call the guy who we got the place from, because he's probably going to look to sell it. So I just want to make sure that I'm in on the deal," which I think is the best encapsulation of everything that he has to offer. So that's everything I have to say. Joey's gone, but I don't know. Have a good rest of your week, y'all.
Thanks, Aditya. Have a good night, man. Hey, and everybody out there in Twitch land, thank y'all so much for tuning in. We had so many great stories from Jessica, Isabella, Aditya, Joey, as always. Thank you all so much for being here. We'll be back in about an hour and a half with Trailer Trashing with Joey and his new co-host. So you guys have a great night. Thank y'all so much. Bye-bye.